Hi friends, welcome to my channel. In previous session we have discussed about CRUD operations in ASP.NET Core MVC by using debugging. So we used stored procedures to perform the CRUD operations. This is the final output which we worked in previous session. Before continuing with this session, please watch my previous video which we explained about CRUD operations in ASP.NET Core by using debugging. Here we used different methods to insert the data and update the data. So this is the update method which we used one stored procedure to update the data, and this is insert method which we used to save the data in database. So in today's session what we are going to do, we are going to make a single stored procedure to perform both insert and update operations. Also in the controller we have created different action method to perform the create and update action methods. So this is the edit which we used for update the data, and this is the create which we used to insert the new record. So this is also we are going to make it as single action method. So here we are going to make it as single action method to perform both create and edit operations. For that, first we will create one stored procedures to perform the both insert and update operations. In previous session we have created different stored procedures to perform the CRUD operations, like to get all the employees we created one stored procedure. To read the data based on the ID we created another stored procedure like this. To perform insert, update, delete operations we created different stored procedure. This is insert, update and delete. So in today's session we are going to make a single stored procedure to perform insert and update operations. For that I am going to create a new stored procedure here. Here I am going to create one new stored procedure. This is my stored procedure name. Here we have to pass parameters. This employee table only we are going to use it for insert and update operations. If you have not seen my previous video how to create a stored procedure in SQL, so please watch my previous video. Here we have to pass all the parameters. First one is ID, the data type is integer, and then I am passing first name, say varchar. Here you have to pass the length of the parameter, and so we have to pass the length of the data type. This is the best practice. And then last name also we have to pass. So these are all the parameters we are going to receive from the user, that is from the application. These parameters we are expecting to perform the insert or update operation. First we will work it on insert. Before performing insert operation we have to check is there any errors available here. For that I will make a begin try, end try. In previous sessions already I explained about this. And begin catch and catch. If there is any error then we have to roll back the transaction. If there is no error then we have to perform insert operation here. For that we have to write a insert query here. Insert into, you have to pass the table name, and here I have to pass all the column names which is available in the table. So I'll copy from here. So these are all the columns I required to insert the data. Also here we have to pass the values. Values we can take it from input parameter. So I can copy these things. So before inserting, we have to start begin transaction, then end transaction. So this is the insert query which we are going to use it for insert operation. Like this we have to use the update also. So this should be commit transaction. Here before inserting the data we have to check if ID is 0, then we are going to insert the data. Else we have to update the data. This is going to be insert, and here we are going to write update query. For update also I will use the begin tran, and if it is successfully updated then we are going to commit the transaction. Here I am going to write update query, update employees, set. Here we have to update each field value. I can copy it from here. Here I can make it equal to, and here I have to pass @ and also we have to pass where condition here, where ID is @ID. So this is the ID which we will receive from the user. If it is a fresh entry, then we will receive as 0, so that time we will insert new record. If ID is greater than 0, that means user is trying to update the data. So in that case we are going to call this update query. Select the stored procedure and execute it. So stored procedure created now. We will refresh it here. So our stored procedure is created. Now we are going to test this. For that I will use stored procedure name. I'll go to the new query, execute. Before that we will check how many records available in the table. So currently we have 4 records. We are going to insert new record. First we will insert the new record here. For that ID will be 0. Then I have to pass first name here. then we have to pass date of birth, so this is the integer, so I'm passing without any single quotes. Then wherever there is a string, we are passing in the single quote. Date also we have to pass it in single quote. This is float, so we are directly passing the value. I'll select and I will execute this. So one row affected, that means one row is inserted here. Execute, so this new record is inserted here. So like this we will try to update the data. So I'm going to update this record, which is having ID 1007. ID I'm passing as 1007. So I'm going to update this 1007 here. Select the query, execute it. One row affected. I'm going to execute it again. 1007. This data is updated perfectly. And also we can check one more thing here before updating, whether that ID which is passed by the user is valid or not. For that we can check here. We will declare one local variable, row count, it is integer. I'm setting as default value 0. I'll check that ID is valid or not. So I will take the count of records. Valid ID, then we will receive the count as 1. Since this is a primary key, we will be having one record with this ID which is passed by the user. So if there is no record, we will get output as 0. So if row count is greater than 0, then only we have to update, otherwise we no need to execute this query at all. So I will check here, if row count is greater than 0, then only it should come to this block. I'll alter this stored procedure. Execute. So like this we can use single stored procedures to perform the insert or update operations. In our data access layer, I am going to create one method to perform insert or update operations. This is the method which we used for update alone. Now I am going to make it as create or edit. So I will make it method name as create or edit, and we have to replace this stored procedure name here. So this is the stored procedure which we are going to use it for both the operations like insert or update. Here we are going to pass all the parameters like ID, first name, last name, date of birth, email and salary. So now we are going to use this method for insert and update. Previously we created 4 different methods for create and edit. This is the method which we are going to use it for get the data, and this is the method which we use to post the data to the data access layer to insert the data. So this is like similar to create get method, so where we are passing the ID, based on the ID we are going to get the data. So now we are going to make it as single action method for both. Now I am going to copy this block and I am going to create for create or edit. So I'll rename it as create or edit. I'll rename this post action method also create or edit. Here I will declare the ID as 0 by default. If ID is 0, then I am going to return empty view. It will return empty view, and here we have to attach employee model. If ID is 0, then we will return empty view here, otherwise we are going to return employee details based on the ID. If ID is greater than 0, then we are going to fetch the data based on the ID, then we are going to return this employee model to view. So here instead of update, we are going to use it like create or edit. So we are going to use this single method to perform both the operations. Here if result is false, then we have to check if model.id is 0, then I am going to display message like unable to insert the data, otherwise it will be unable to update the data. Like here also we have to check if employee details created, here it's updated. If model state is invalid, then we are going to display error message like model data is invalid. If it is valid, then we are going to pass the data to the data access layer. This is the method which we created for both insert or update employee. So this is the method which we created for both insert or update operations, and if it is successful we will get result as true, otherwise we will get false. If it is a false, we have to check that whenever we are creating ID will be 0. If ID is 0, then we are going to display message as unable to insert the data. If ID is greater than 0, then we are going to display this message to the user. If it is successfully inserted, then result will be true. In that case it will comes to this block, this will not be executed, it will comes to this block. And here also again we have to check whether it's inserted or updated. For that purpose again I am checking model ID is 0, then employee details created, otherwise employee details updated. So controller part we have completed the process. Now we have to go to the view. I am going to copy this, copy, and I will paste it again here. Instead of using create and edit views, we are going to use a single view here. I will make it as create or edit. Here we have to copy this action method name. Here instead of edit, we have to pass the create or edit action method, and here we are displaying ID. So here I no need to display the ID, I will make it as hidden. Here also we have to change the buttons. Suppose if model not equal to null and model dot ID is zero, then I am going to display the create button, otherwise I will display update button. I will copy this one, I will make it as primary here, and I will make it text we will update as create. So if model ID is 0, that means if we are trying to insert the data, then we will show this button as create. If user is trying to update the data, then we are going to display this update button. Then I can copy this action name and I have to change it in index also. Here whenever user is trying to edit the data, so we have to change this action method name here. Also in index, so while clicking on this button also we have to change the action method name. This is create or edit. We will run the application now. Before that we will try to debug this. Also here, so run the application in debug mode. I'll try to create the employee. It's coming to get action method. ID will be by default it's 0. So since ID is 0, it's going to return empty employee model. So here there is a issue. Okay, here we have to pass else. So now it's showing correct, and also here we can change the date of birth. It is showing the default value of date of birth. Here we can make it as date, month and year. So we will change that. For that, go to the models. So this is the model which we are using. So here I'll make it as optional. Build the application once. There is one error. Now build this. So now it is showing correct. So I will give the first name here. Click on create. So it's coming to create or edit post action method. We will see the model, what are all the data it's coming. So ID is 0. Since ID is 0, it should create the new entry. If it is greater than 0, then it will update the data. So we are getting all the data here. So model state is valid. So it's going to data access layer now. So it's coming to data access layer. So we are passing all the parameters to the stored procedure. Here once it is executed, so we will get the number of records affected. So in this case it should return the 1, so id is 1. So if return id is greater than 0, then we are going to return as true. This is id is 1, so we are going to return true. Result is true. So if it is false, it will comes to this block, otherwise it goes here. Model id is 0, then it will display success message as employee details created. It will return to index view. Employee details created. This is the record which we created. Like this, we will update one record and we will test it. I'll edit this record. So in this case id is 1008, so it will comes to else block. Here we will get employee data based on the id. So this is 1008, this is the employee information. It is returning to view. We can check that, inspect, and we can check what is the id of this employee. So this is the id, value is 1008. So we are updating correct record here. I'm trying to update now. So based on the condition, when we are trying to create new record, it will show the create button. When we are trying to update the data, so it will show the update button. Click on update. It's coming to post action method. This time id will be 1008 and all other values are received from the view. Model state is valid. Then again it's going to data access layer. So once executed, it will return the number of rows affected. So it's one row affected. Since result is true, again it comes to this block. This time id is 1008, it's coming to else block. So employee details updated. So message is showing us employee details updated. After 5 seconds, that message will be closed automatically. So like this, we can use single action method for both insert and update operations in ASP.NET Core, and we have created one single store procedure to perform both the operations. That's it for today. If you like this video, please like and subscribe to my channel. Thanks for watching.